kid.
Okay.
Well, the earliest I can remember, we lived a little walk-up apartment, a second-story apartment in North Minneapolis on Queen Avenue, I think. Right, 'cause I would have been like 3 or 4 years old.
Right.
And my dad had met my mother at North High School. They got married. They went to this Presbyterian church called Hope Chapel. And that was a kind of a mission church from another more established Presbyterian church in North Minneapolis. So this Hope Chapel was sort of young kids. It was sort of millennial type, you know. And here it comes. Can you make it?
Yeah.
And but so they eventually got married. And my dad had always, I mean, his specialty was being a salesman. And that's why it reminds me of Tommy. He loved to, even he'd talk about how he liked to make a word picture of what he was trying to sell, and he believed in, you know, giving service to. I mean, he was just a perfect salesman. I mean, I think he was. He might.
Yeah. No.
And he started out. His first job was with Firestone Tire and Rubber, and it was on Harmon Avenue, downtown Minneapolis. It's still there, I think, some sort of a filling station store. Or, and so he moved up in that thing. And when I was born, he was working as a pretty top salesman at Firestone. And my mother had, she never went to the university, but she trained herself, or she was trained in high school in stenography, so she could take wonderful dictation.
Right.
And she had great
shorthand and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, shorthand, yeah, and had great penmanship. Not that makes too much difference, but she was beautiful handwriting. And she managed to get a job at the University of Minnesota, and she was the personal secretary to a fellow by the name of Willie, who was the head of the sociology department in those days. So she had a kind of not a high-paying job, kind of a prestigious job. And you know, and my brother and I, we went to the University of Minnesota all the time. We went to Minnesota football games because my mother would get these, you know, faculty tickets. Anyway, so the two of them, and everything centered around, when we were young, around this Logan Avenue North address right off of Broadway, where my grandfather had built this house. And my grandfather, on my mother's father, was this little, another Norwegian, but came from probably a little better family.
Bergen is, if I
Yeah, I think they were from Bergen. That's right. And his, my father's. I'm trying to get it straight here. Okay. I don't know how. What I think they just came from Bergen, and.
So he didn't talk with a Norwegian accent or anything?
No.
He was second generation.
No, yeah, he was. But I'm trying to think. I got my dates mixed up. Let me think. Okay. Well, the mother and father are married. Now, okay, then the war came along. That was it. And by that time, I was just being born. You know,
Right.
Or I'd been born. 1936. I was born in the depths of the Depression.
Right. Yeah.
That's right. There are not many people my age, because nobody wanted to have babies when in 1936. So but then my dad, because he was in the tire business, that was a kind of a hot area because everybody was dying for tires.
Right.
They needed all the rubber they could get.
Stamps and all that stuff.
And my dad actually showed me some of the first examples of artificial rubber that didn't come from a rubber tree, you know, and that was all just beginning to happen in 1943 or 44 or something, whenever the war was going
still
on.
happening. Yeah.
And then so Dad then he did one of his first little entrepreneurial things. He broke away from Firestone and became an independent sort of a contractor, you might say. He would go out and buy tires and supply them to all these truck lines. I mean, so he knew all the people.
Right.
And he also did work for a company called Hawkinson, and he got a piece of the action on all the retreading business he bought. In those days, they used to take tires and put new rubber on them. And
I think they still
they
do.
still do.
trucks,
You
yeah.
can still do that. So and then one thing led to another, and he eventually the war ended, and he didn't have any particular extra advantage when there wasn't a war going on, and he got into the real estate business.
Right.
And then the rest you kind of know about. He was
Right. That's Stacy Realty.
Stacy Realty, and
Yeah.
he bought the place that with the building that my brother and I owned was built by my dad to house his real estate business.
Yeah.
And
I remember coming to look at the excavation when they started
Yeah.
that site.
that's
So I was a little boy. I remember looking.